Welcome everybody to this new episodes of the live sessions that we have with the Proportion Global community. And today I'd like to introduce you to Maha.
Hi everyone, I am Maha Salman and I'm dialing in from Pakistan. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting. I am an M&E enthusiast. I'm working in the sector for the last 5 years. I have a curious mind and I'm always thinking about public policy and the contemporary social issues. I've also been associated and working along with some local, regional and international evaluation associations. I'm really excited to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. One of the topics that we discussed previously, which I find really interesting to share also with our community of practice, is the similarities, but also maybe the complementarities between monitoring and evaluation and human-centered design. I'd like maybe first your definition of what is monitoring and evaluation. What is the status quo of M&E? Because maybe traditionally we know it as before you do an impact program or impact project, you do a baseline study at the beginning and you do an endline study at the end, and you kind of research the differences, and that's the amount of impact you have created, right? Is that still the case? Is that what M&E is nowadays?
Okay, so I'm really glad you asked this question because it's going to sort of set the tone of how I see M&E and what I think of it and my approach towards it, like in my personal story. So I still consider myself as a young and emerging evaluator. So first, there's that. And for me, see, M&E, I feel it's such a, this field is so close to just being human, because as humans, we have the ability to think, to assess, to observe, to evaluate, to analyze. And this is basically, these are the skill set that you need to be an evaluator. So you observe the context, you monitor things, you see what's important, you filter out, which is also very important, and then you make and decide, once you've gathered enough data and it meets the robustness level for your assessment, and then you take a decision or you advise someone or you consult, and that's the whole idea and my outlook of this field and this profession. So M&E, in very simple terms, what it does and how it sort of complements HCD is that it is now becoming very, first of all, it is something that it's not an afterthought anymore. So it's not something that you have to do at the end of the project, or just, you set your targets and you have your baselines, and in the end, you're just going to compare whether you've sort of achieved this or not achieved this, if you're lagging behind. So it's not basically something that is going to be done at the end. Now it is not an afterthought, it is somewhat integrated in the entire process. And it begins with when you're designing, when you're sort of, in the inception phase, when you're doing your feasibility studies, when you're doing your preliminary researches. So it is absolutely a big part of it from the start now. So you need evaluation now at all stages. So when you talk about, those old traditional M&E approaches, then you would be thinking about, oh, it's going to, some evaluator is going to come at the end and just going to analyze, and, it's sort of like a camera or like a very watchdog approach that used to be there, when you would hear about M&E or like audits, or somebody who's just going to come, like a monitor is going to come and, going to be assessing you, and people would be sort of, sort of resistant to, they're going to be assessing us. So this whole narrative, I feel, is changing, and that is really good.
Interesting. And have you seen also different techniques to use that? Because how have evaluators kind of developed themselves? Because what I understood, also the traditional way of doing assessments is kind of closed question surveys. So evaluation is also just going out in the field with a survey and just tick all those boxes. But now it's expected from evaluators to also have much more qualitative research techniques.
Absolutely.
So how do you acquire as a professional in M&E those qualitative research techniques?
So you're absolutely right. And I think I've seen this. So in my brief 5-year career, I've seen how this whole field has sort of evolved, and it is evolving, and it is so dynamic. And the good thing about it is it is so open to new approaches that it incorporates a lot of new ideas that are, and new budding themes that are happening globally. So you're absolutely right that usually, or like back in the days, there was a lot of focus on data. You need evidence, concrete data to sort of support your idea. And you need those coefficients and the significance level. There was a lot of sort of focus on those regression analysis and, those statistical tools to sort of pin down and make you have to be absolutely sure that, yeah, this is what it's telling, you have that 99% confidence level and all, right? So now the good thing is that you're basically sort of all of that is still there, and I'm not saying that is not important, but along with that, you're looking at and triangulating it with a lot of qualitative data, field insights, observations, focus group discussions, which are a great way to sort of incorporate the details and the candid conversations that you have with people who you're either are facing an issue or are somewhat they're facing a problem. So that whole participatory approach where you're bringing in all the stakeholders, asking them, consulting with them, engaging with them, discussing with them, and it's not sort of like an the top down approach. It's basically sort of like a bottom approach now, where their views, their ideas, their narratives, perceptions are sort of fitting in and into the design process. So the feedback loops are so much stronger now, and which is sort of making this whole process so exciting and more relevant and context specific, I feel also, because when you're just looking at the data, you're looking at it from one angle, and you're on your desk using your computer, running the analysis, and that is just one angle, right? So even with my experiences of going out in the field, I would hear about different stories, and my perception about that thing would completely change. So yeah, so this entire approach, the mix, the use of mixed methodology is absolutely amazing of how much value it has.
You are aware of human-centered design, so you can also pull tools from HCD. But in general, you explained to me that in Pakistan, HCD is not really well evolved, right? But you do have access to those qualitative research tools. So I'm just curious to learn, like, is it you who just picked it from a different domain like HCD, or are these tools also simply available in the domain of M&E? And how do you personally develop yourself with those qualitative research techniques?
So here, I think it would be I would speak for myself because it would be otherwise it would be sort of like a hasty generalization, because I'm sure there are people in Pakistan who are working in this sphere and they know much more. So for me, I feel that when I started learning about HCD, I thought that it is something that is already been incorporated in a lot of fields, not just M&E, but in a lot of fields, since it's so versatile and relevant for a lot of different sectors and industries. So it is happening, but as a concept and as a word or as a term that you would hear again and again, that voice is somewhat missing, right? There could be, I see a lot of potential actually. I see a lot of potential, and this is why I was curious to sort of learn more and see where we can go with this. So it is a very interesting space in that aspect.
I think it's interesting to further explore how M&E professionals and HCD professionals could collaborate, because I think I can really relate to the fact that designers are more and more being engaged in the feasibility study of a new intervention, or better understanding
Absolutely.
the challenges of a community to come up with a new intervention or a new value proposition, generate ideas to co-create with community members on how to solve a specific problem, then turn that into a MVP or like a minimum viable service. At first, people might think, okay, but this is kind of the job for designers. But now it's really interesting to learn that also M&E professionals are moving into that space. And I think that's totally not a threat. I think it's a huge opportunity. From our purpose, yeah, we really want to spread the power of creative problem solving. And if the avenue of capacitating M&E professionals in more qualitative research techniques, I think that's beautiful. And it could also be the other way around. So when you do qualitative research, what kind of maybe HCD tools, or maybe not even HCD, but what kind of tools do you use? For instance, do you use user journey mapping or any kind of other tools to really empathize with the users you want to impact? Especially, I'm interested to learn about how you do how you use M&E in the inception phase.
So for the inception phase, what happens is that you're designing, let's say you're designing an intervention, or you're thinking of designing a program or a product, let's say. And there's a whole research going on, preliminary research, where you're testing out maybe some ideas and concepts of what is going to work. So there are a lot of consultations with the stakeholders. So in the initial phases, there are a lot of, small group settings, and you're having detailed focus group discussions. You're having interviews. You're conducting some sort of surveys as well to gather as much insights, as much relevant data you can to sort of get to where you want. And then there are times when you have the resources to sort of develop a prototype, let's say. And once you've done that, or once you have that, if not a prototype, you have some sort of like a model in mind that you want to test out, then you can maybe on a very small scale, select a locality, select an audience, and sort of do a test run of how things might, what are the challenges that you might face, what are the risks, the assumptions that are going to be there in the background, and then and look at it from different angles, from the angle of value for money, the cost effectiveness, how much time it's going to take out, what are the external factors, internal factors that are going to play out. So all of that sort of, you're thinking from all these different angles and dimensions, and basically trying to be as foolproof as you can. Of course, you can't be sure about 100% sure about things, but as much as you can. So all of that is going on, basically.
Well, it's a kind of a feast of recognition. I mean, it's a real eye opener that M&E professionals talk about empathizing with users, really coming up with new ideas with users through focus groups, turning that into prototypes. I think that same vocabulary that human-centered designers have, but the devil is in the details. Probably it's how you do things, and I think this could be a really great learning experience as well to see, hey, so maybe our shared recommendation to both sides is be aware that we actually talk the same language, but how we run it in practice might differ. So I think it's a great opportunity to reach out to M&E professionals as a designer. And if you are an M&E professional, be aware that designers can also really help out on your end, especially when you talk about prototyping. Can you give one more example of how a prototype could look like from an M&E professional's perspective?
So for instance, if you're testing out whether an in-person teacher program is going to work, or if a tech-based video is going to work more effectively in a classroom setting. And you have these two options, and you sort of pick up certain classrooms of certain schools, and then you sort of run it there and you gather the responses, and then you sort of note down all the details and the feedback from the students. And you, if you have some sort of assessment criteria, or you have that, you have a set of indicators, how you've been sort of, you're going to be assessing both these prototypes or tools, and you gather and then you make your assessment. So these are the little kind of things that you do, and then you then decide your strategy to scale up, and how you're going to be rolling out, or what option you incline more with.
But is the M&E professional also the one who is developing the prototype, for instance, or is that a given to you?
So it works. It's basically the entire team effort. So in M&E team, it's people. There's certain people who are more, who are from the programming background, and they then sort of design these applications and websites and dashboards for us. Then there are statisticians who would be doing and dealing with all the data and doing the analysis, and then there are researchers as well. So it's a collaborative effort, and but the good thing is that everybody is learning from each other. So the programmers are learning from the researchers, and they're learning from the statisticians, they're learning from the program implementers. So all of that is happening in one space, and there's a lot of synergy and collaboration going on.
That's wonderful. And I think these last probably 10 minutes really set the stage of a live discussion between you, where you introduced this topic with the Proportion Global community, with the human-centered design professionals. If you are viewing this video and you are interested in this topic, do sign up for the Proportion Global community and join us in the upcoming session. Maha, thank you very much for these insights, and I really look forward to continue the discussion during the next live session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Looking forward.